to welcome you once again to the SCORE Business Showcase. We have a fantastic guest with us today, the famed Bobby Ramos. Welcome, Bobby.
My pleasure. I'm just happy to be here because I'm waiting to see this famous guy that you got coming in. I'm really excited. I'm really excited. See.
Well, yeah, you have a varied background, all right, coming from the police department, and also radio. So you have a lot of experience that we'll be discussing today that can help us. Now, how does one go from being a decorated police officer to radio and stage personality?
I'm a little shy, Steve, and no, it's being a cop happened on a lark for me, really. I always wanted to be when I was younger, but I didn't know anything about the law. I was naive. You don't have to know anything about the law to be a cop. And a buddy of mine was taking a state police test, and he asked me to take it with him, do the buddy thing. And I passed, and he didn't. So, but right before the physical, I tore my knee up playing ball. And, I got a great score, and I got a date to go for the physical. And I went to the doctor. I got a doctor's note said I could do the physical in 3 weeks. I called the state, and the lady just laughed. She said, "You don't understand the state. No, we don't wait for you. We can't move the date." So the next go-around, I took Bridgeport, Stratford, and the state. They all gave the test within like 5 weeks. I heard from Stratford first, and I took Stratford. While I was in the academy, I got letters that I passed Bridgeport and the state, but I was already had a month in. As far as what got me started with the radio was listening to, the #1 sports station in the country, FAN, WFAN, out of New York with Mike and the Mad Dog. And I got to know both of them, but there were some arrogant so-and-sos, And, people would call in, they'd hang up on them, they'd let them talk for 10 seconds. And I said, I'd like to do that with a Connecticut twist where you're not so rude. You give people a chance to talk. So I walked into WICC, and I'll just make it brief. I sold it. And the lady who was second in charge, who's now head in charge there, she got off the phone with her boss, and she said, "What's your name?" I said, "Bobby." She said, "The best I could do, I got you a 10-week trial period." Now, nothing works in 10 weeks. But I said, "Thank you, appreciate it." And I turned that into 17 years.
Fantastic.
Of different kind of shows, too. It wasn't just sports. I ventured into other things.
That's great. Yeah. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Different twist, because especially being a cop, a lot of people knew me from all the community things I did and all the articles I've been in the paper. But sometimes my partner and I would use the van to take the prisoners to court in the morning, and I'd have a guy in the back seat. Hey, you're the cop with the radio show. You're the cop with the sports show. And I say, "Yeah, I still got to take you to jail, but keep listening when you get out." So you use whatever you got.
Yes, indeed. You're talking about taking the. I was in court with my son one time, and they're bringing people in. They're in chains and whatnot. Right. I'm kind of ducking underneath the seat.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And I asked my son after that. He was able to walk out.
Right.
I said, "So what did you see there? What are you talking about?" I said, "I felt like I was going to be arrested." "Oh, they're not going to arrest me."
Yeah.
Famous last words.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, you were awarded 3 major awards from the state in 2017. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that was huge. I wish my parents, they were there in spirit. I wish they were there in person. I got Martin Luther King Day, which is right on the corner. I got the Martin Luther King's Award from the state for all my community service work that I did as a police officer. So that was a big deal. And then early May, I get a call on my phone from another lady from the state, and I see State of Connecticut on my phone, and she says, "Yeah, is this Bobby Ramos?" And now, I'm from Bridgeport, so I'm like, "Oh, shoot, they want their awards back." So I'm like, "Yeah, this is Steve. This is Steve. Can I help you?" And she goes, "Is this Bobby?" I said, No, hey, that's me. And she said, "Well, every year the state gives out a Man of the Year award, and you were nominated." And I said, "Oh, okay." I didn't. To this day, I don't know who nominated me. I said, "Oh, okay. Thank you." And she goes, "Don't thank me." She said, "You won in a landslide." And I said, wow. And she goes, don't wow me either. She said, because every year the state gives out a Lifetime Achievement Award. She said, the results came back. You won that too in a landslide. See, now this is in Hartford. She said, we've never had anybody from that end of the state. We've never seen a record like yours. So we'd like you to be back at the state capitol May 12th to receive the awards. The Blumenthal was at the first one, and I said, I'm kind of busy that day. Let me check my schedule. And she goes, excuse me? I said, ma'am, I'm a beat. I'm just teasing you. You don't know my sense of humor. So yeah, that was those 3 awards in a matter of a couple of months.
Wow.
You know,
that's,
so
that's
yeah,
great.
it was a big deal.
Yes.
It was a big deal because for the state to recognize, to see your body of work. The biggest thing for me, though, was the community angle. I'm the most decorated cop in Stratford's history, and that's all nice. And my parents loved it. My mother really loved it. But for me, the biggest thing was the constant respect that I got from the community. When I was working, when I wasn't working, when I retired. The community threw me a just because dinner. Now, who does that for cops? And I didn't retire for 3 more years. So that was a big deal. And then back in '91, when I was involved with threatening the town with a lawsuit for not hiring women and minorities, people of color, the current chief at that time wanted to keep me out of working in our tough section of town because that was always home for me. And 650 people signed a petition to keep me there. Now, in your rough section of town, where do people sign a petition to keep a cop working in that neighborhood?
Exactly.
So that, to me, the awards are great, but those things were the most powerful things. You know, the stories that I hear from grandparents and parents and kids that I dealt with who are now adults and have their own kids. You know, Bobby, you kept me out of trouble. You know, you stayed on me. You know, you embarrassed me, brought me home in the car, brought me to my mother. But that's what I needed. That's bigger than the awards.
And that's the type of police officer we need today.
Oh, big time.
You know,
big time. It's lost. It's lost in a big way.
Yeah.
So I can go on for hours about that.
Well, we appreciate. You know, I really never really met you until maybe a few months ago.
You remember I gave you that $3 back in '92? You remember that one, right? Okay,
I don't remember that.
Okay, all right. That's why I didn't get it. All right.
But I heard about you for a number of years.
Oh,
all right,
okay.
and people told me about you. Matter of fact, when I was started the radio show, the TV show, people suggested I call you and have you on the show, and also we talked about getting referrals.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard about you for quite some time.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. So when I grow up, I want to be just like you, Bobby.
Yeah. And when I grow up, I want to be just like you, Steve.
Now, you started out with a sports talk show on the radio. What started the youth sport passion?
Man, I'm from Bridgeport. That's all we did was ball. That's all we did, you know, whether it was football, baseball, basketball. During the summertime, you'd have breakfast, get on your bicycle, we'll start running, whatever. You go play ball somewhere. Come home for lunch, go play ball somewhere. Make sure you got home whatever time your mother, father told you to get home. You went back out and played ball again, you know. So whether we were playing in the streets, whether we were at Beardsley Park, because we used to live at the North End Boys Club, we were always playing ball. So that's all we did. That's all we did. And I was kind of a quiet kid because I stuttered real bad. And I have given that story every time I talk at churches and schools and stuff. You know, I tell kids, I don't want to hear you can't do something because I stuttered so bad I couldn't answer the phone. I'd be like, I couldn't say hello. And like in school, everybody would read a paragraph. They used to skip me because I stuttered so bad. I was like 12 or 13, and there wasn't no money for no therapy and all that kind of stuff, you know. And whenever the phone would ring, I'd go in the opposite direction. One summer day, my father was a carpenter, and the phone rang. I ran outside like I always do, and he was outside working on the truck. Boy, go inside and answer the phone. I go inside, answer the phone. And he goes, who was it when I came back out? I said, Dad, I don't know. They hung up on me. He said, if people don't want to hear my son stutter, they don't have to call my damn house anymore. Now go get me the toolkit. Now, that didn't stop my stuttering, but in the back of my head, it gave me the idea that my father said one day it was going to be all right. Mm-hmm. And as I got older, 17, 18, I taught myself to just slow my speech a little bit. And my mother used to tell me, Bobby, you have a big voice. One day, thousands of people are going to listen to you. I didn't know what she was talking about, didn't have a clue. But around 2021, most of it had gone. And matter of fact, I just did a few seconds ago. I can tell when I'm going to stumble on a word and I just blow through it, or I change the word. So I tell kids, I don't want you to think you can't do something. You have to fight through it, because I couldn't answer the phone. I didn't think I'd be doing radio and television and talking to Johnny Cochran and Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and having these 2-3 hour discussions with these prominent people when I couldn't answer the phone.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
What an achievement.
Yeah, well, that's just the grace of God, and my parents just believing in me, because I didn't do nothing, really. But like my mother said later in life, she would tease me about it and say, but now I can't shut you up. So whatever works.
Yes. Now, who are the athletes that you looked up to as a youth?
Wow, you can tell by the people that I really do lengthy interviews with. Though I love sports, I loved athletes who persevered under challenges. I loved Jim Brown. I loved Curt Flood. I loved the athletes who weren't loved by everybody because of what they felt about society, their outside battles with society. Guys who stood up, and my number one after my father, of course, was Muhammad Ali. Those are the people that I grew up saying, wow, that's the way I want to be. Fast forward me down the road, fighting the town for not hiring the women and minorities back in 91. But watching those guys, and that's what I grew up a Yankee fan, because in our area, that's all you get.
Exactly.
You wasn't watching the Mets because they stunk. So it was only channel 11 and 9. Yankees were 11, and I've become real good friends with Bill White, the Yankee announcer, the first African-American president in any pro league, and the Yankees' voice for 90. He was the first African-American to broadcast baseball, too. And he said he had the same. He said, same dealings. I said, when I grew up, I watched the Yankees, but I followed the Cardinals, because that's what we played for. Because the Cardinals, the Giants, and the Pirates, they had players who actually looked like me. You know, the Cardinals had Gibson and Curt Flood and Lou Brock, cats who looked like me. The Latin players, they were big in the National League when it came to the Pirates, and they had Clemente and Stargell and Manny Sanguillen and all these cats, and the Giants had McCovey and Bonds and Mays, some Cepeda, cats who looked like me, and they played a fast, exciting game. So that's where I got my passion, watching these cats just do what they do.
Wow. Interesting.
That's it.
So what made you create your radio shows?
Once again, just because of the arrogance of these cats that I heard in New York. And I said, there's nothing here in Connecticut. There's nothing here in Connecticut. So I wanted to bring a different flavor. And I read a lot. Then I was reading a lot of magazines growing up. I started reading some books. Dick Gregory's No More Lies opened my eyes in the 8th grade. And I've become real good friends with his son. I did an hour and 15-minute interview with him a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted, because I'd watch these guys, and I always hear what a jerk Wilt Chamberlain was. Well, when I got to deal with some of these athletes, older athletes like Hubie Brown, the great coach, and stuff like that, who was his coach, his assistant coach with the Bucks, he told me, listen, everybody loved Chamberlain. And I grew up, the media hated him. And I said there was a different twist as I got older. I saw the same thing with Eddie Murray from the Orioles. He refused to talk to the media because they ripped his sick sister, put it out publicly. These guys, their stories weren't being told. So that's why when I got on the radio, I got into Oscar Robertson, who I did an interview with him for his book that came out. These guys are so rich in their history, but it wasn't told by them. Their stories weren't told. So I do everybody in my interviews, male, female, black, white, but I love the cats. I don't care what night you hit a home run. I don't care what game you won with a three-pointer. That's nice, okay. I care what you went through to get there.
The journey.
The journey, the story. And our stories get lost. And that's why I have focused on cats like Bill Russell, Satch Sanders, and Oscar Robertson, who, that's why so many of them have told me during the interview, boy, you got me saying stuff I don't normally say. Nobody's ever asked me that before. Jim Brown said that on stage in front of everybody 3 times. Wow. So, yeah, it was just to get our stories out.
Now, what year did you graduate from high school here in Bridgeport?
Why are you all up in my business?
I'm trying to figure out how come we never met before.
I graduated 76.
76, okay.
Yeah,
I was in 74.
Okay.
From Tech, Bullard Davis.
You that old? Anyway, I'm back
That's the way it is.
It is for both of us. I get it.
Now, what pluses and minuses did you find in some of these things you were doing? Challenges and successes?
Successes were, my mother told me, she picked up everything way before me. She picked up, Bobby, you got something special. Everybody in my church talks about you. I listen to your shows. You get these big people to tell you stuff they don't normally say. That's a gift. That's a gift. That's been a plus. And people have said, oh, it's because it had nothing to do with me being a cop. Had nothing to do with, because most cops aren't that verbal anyway. Okay, it's about the uniform and that badge, and shut your mouth and listen to me. All right, so it had nothing to do. I take that as a slight. I was able to get into people way before I became a cop and a SWAT negotiator and all that stuff. So that's been a plus, being a cat from Bridgeport. Just a regular, I'm Paul Endors's baby boy. And I'm talking to Muhammad Ali and Oscar Robertson and Johnny Cochran at length. Yes. Dick Gregory and stuff like that. So that's been the plus. The minuses, it was tough when I started now because, you know, there's very few voices of color out there. Right. Especially in Connecticut. Yes. Especially who are opinionated. Hello. So that was a journey. The first year and a half, man, I'd feel like when I get off some of these shows, I would feel like I had been in a heavyweight fight. You know, because people were, I understand the mentality of KKK behind the hoods. I was dealing with some folks who had more than a hood. They had a phone. I don't know who you are, where you at. And they're saying some stuff that wasn't too cool because they weren't used to hearing certain opinions. But after a year and a half, it started changing, and I'm speaking at churches and rotaries and all that kind of stuff. So those minuses I turned into pluses.
That's fantastic. I'm sure it's been a journey.
Hello.
Now you mentioned some well-known people. Matter of fact, there's some people that I want to interview. I told the person that's the president in the SCORE arena here in the Northeast, my dream guest is Michael Jordan, right? And he came up and he said, well, how about 50 Cent? And so he's on the board with 50 Cent, so you know, maybe that might happen. I know you talked to him.
Yeah, I've interviewed 50. I've interviewed Jordan. I'd rather talk to your doorknob than talk to Jordan.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. We all know he was a great athlete, but to me, as a man, he's a waste of skin. He has stood up for nothing. He's very powerful. He's always been powerful, even when he was playing. But he's never stood up for anything. He's never had an opinion on anything. He's the one who created that Nike brand of hear no evil, speak no evil, have no opinion on anything. So that's why when you look at a lot of the Nike cats, whether it was Jordan, whether it was Derek Jeter, they have no opinion on anything that's going on in society.
Okay. Well, you know, it got me interested in Michael Jordan as I read some of his books, and also it was interesting, my perspective on it, because I went to this thing in New Haven. They were talking about the brain and whatnot. This guy he started talking about, before he got into the selling point of what he was doing, he took about an hour and a half on the brain and he mentioned about Michael Jordan, that he scored 55 points in 2 minutes. And I said, how is that even possible? And he said he was in the zone. He was talking to like 1,000 people at maybe 500. But I called a friend out in California. I said, what is this zone thing that you're talking about? And he said, there's a guy out in the Oakland A's out in California. He sees the ball coming at 93 miles an hour. He said it looks as big as a basketball. He can see the threads of it turning. He said that's being in the zone. And what happened was, because I finally found somebody that actually saw the game. And he said, yes, it did happen. They stopped the clock. All right, so in the time they stopped the clock, it was 2 minutes that he scored those points. And they asked him afterwards, how in the world did you do that? He said they were moving too slow. And then in tennis, it's called being in the envelope, because this 16-year-old won this championship. It was a drop shot. She was at the baseline, got the ball, won it. How did you do that? She said, I believed I could. Right? So that got me into another whole situation. I saw that Michael was involved in that. And that's what caught my attention as far as that was concerned. Plus, his athleticism as far as a basketball player.
He was a great player.
Unbelievable.
And he had a great mind for the game and great player. But
there's some other sides.
Yeah, listen, go watch his Hall of Fame speech. Normally people thank everybody, their family and their coaches. He used that time. Go watch it on YouTube. He used that time to annihilate his high school coach. He used that time to make cracks about his former owner with the Bulls. That's not the time for that.
No.
But his ego is so abrasive. He used it even during his Hall of Fame speech. I
gotcha.
No, listen.
Okay.
Oh, well, I can rip him for an hour, so keep going.
Now, who were your favorite interviews and your least favorite? Well, I think we found that one already. Yeah. I saw Tim Duncan was a superstar, but he had no personality, not with the media at least. Everybody told me differently, but he's 7 foot, so he's looking over your head. He would stare over your head, and he wouldn't really say very much. He was just very, direct, cold answers, very. But yeah, Jordan. Just seeing Jordan when Jordan came to Mohegan Sun when his restaurant was open, and it was that was the second one in line. And they opened the door to the locker room, and all the players, they were having an exhibition game. All the players were in their uniforms. He was still in a suit and tie. He was sitting in a chair, like mine, with his jacket on the back of his chair, and he's watching TV, and he has earplugs in. The guy from Channel 8 or Channel 3 News, I forgot, lined about 6 feet away and was taking some video of him. I was right there. I was 6 feet away from Jordan. Jordan pulled the earplug out, and he goes, turn that blanking camera off. And the young kid said, no, Mr. Jordan, I don't want to interview you. I just want to take some shots for the evening news. Jordan takes his other earplug out, and he goes, what the blank about no do you not understand? And that kid packed up and ran out of there. I turned around and walked out. I don't want to talk to you. Right.
No,
right.
You treat another person like that, who's doing their job.
Right.
No. So anyway, don't get me with Jordan. But there's a reason why cats like Jim Brown have always gone to battle with Jordan, because he's never stood up for him.
Okay.
Never. So,
right. Gotcha. And your favorite interview?
Wow. Well, I had that 3.5 hour battle with Jim Brown. Jim's very direct, which I am, so I enjoyed that. But I tell you, probably Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is the most direct and honest person that you could ever imagine interviewing. He seems to have no filters. He will say anything at any time, and he'll give his truth about it.
Right.
Now and he is bipolar and he has issues like that, so that's why there's times he'd be off kilter. But if you catch him when he's right, I did an interview with him for 25 minutes, and that's when he was doing his one-man stage show.
Oh, yes.
And I said, so Mike, are you going to be honest with the people? And he said, yeah, well, I'm going to talk about my daughter. Now, his daughter died at like 3 years old on a treadmill in his house. I wasn't expecting you to bring that up, but he went into the deepest part of his soul, and that's what he brought up. I thought he'd say something boxing-wise. So,
interesting. Great. Any up and coming events that you're planning?
Yeah, I'm getting back into the stage shows on top of the radio, but I'm bringing some big names on stage. I don't want to say where yet, but I have people like Harry Belafonte. I have Norman Lear. I had Tavis Smiley. I don't think that's a good time right now. But I got Dr. Cornel West because I ventured. I never wanted, as much as I love sports, I never wanted to get pigeonholed. And once I started doing this and started reading and reading and reading, realizing the pulpit that I had, I didn't want to pigeonhole with sports. So I do sports and entertainment and societal things. So yeah, I have those things lined up.
That's fantastic. It sounds like you're a reader. Also.
Big time.
One of the things that we like to do to talk about on the show is books, because unfortunately a lot of business owners don't take the time to read or feel that they don't have the time to read. So we kind of introduce books, and one of the books that we're talking about today is how to read a book. And I remember mentioning this to a friend, and he said, well, to himself, does this guy think I can't read? But in here, this is one of the best books I have ever read. Matter of fact, in it has the top 100 books to read that have been printed in the world, actually. So it actually opens our mind. And actually, there's only 4 ways of reading, all right? And it talks about in the book, the one we learned was elementary in school, 1 word at a time. And that's why when we read a book, we kind of fade out because we speak at 200 words a minute. Our mind runs at 1,000 words a minute. So we're slowing down our brain. That's why we get sleepy. One of the fastest ways is syntopical reading, where you're reading paragraphs at a time. So this book will actually help you read 3 times faster than you normally would do.
Preach, brother.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, I wish they had a book, How to Stop Stuttering, when I was in school. But anyway, no, that's big. I just got contacted yesterday to do an interview with James Patterson. He's